Good morning, crypto sports fans. Clay Albright here. I walked into the office this morning and immediately everybody was swarming around because of all the activity that was happening on JungleNet. I'm here with Michael Bohnen of EOS USA, and we are here to talk about that.
Attic Labs turned it on and was like, "Oh yeah, my bad."
Well, so dude, explain, like what's going on?
All right, so 1.8 is a big change, a lot of big underlying fundamental changes to some of the code and everything, which is
1.8 is the newest release.
Yep. So let me take a step back.
Yep.
So EOS IO is the software that runs EOS and a lot of the other sister chains and everything. So Block.one has implemented some new features that's coming out in the next major release, but that's going to require some changes to the underlying way data is stored and just the back end of it, nerd stuff, right?
Right.
So ultimately, it's going to trigger a fork. Is that, hey, we can't use the old data anymore. We need to use the new data. And so a lot of us are spinning up new nodes, trying it out, playing with it, whatever. Seeing how long it takes, days of replay, stuff like that.
Right.
So we're to the point of testing it. And so JungleNet, which is EOS's playground, one of.
Right. CryptoLions, yes.
CryptoLions runs JungleNet, Jungle2. So basically, it's a great place for all the nerds to come and play and change all the codes and try things out to see what happens whenever what happens if I press this button. Yeah. So, long story short, it's just coming out. It's still RC1. We know RC2 is coming out. It's going to make some changes, stuff like that. So, release candidate is what RC stands for.
Release candidate.
So, it's the first, here guys, give it a shot. Ooh, you find some bugs? All right, then those will get rolled into RC2, and then eventually.
So, is this Block.one code that we're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay,
that's
wow.
correct. So ultimately.
Block.one puts something out. It's usually tested on CryptoLions JungleNet first.
They've tested it in-house and did their own thing, obviously.
Okay.
I mean, they do their own QA type of thing internally. But this is them saying, all right, guys, this is our first whack at it. We know it's not going to be, that's why it's not final. It's a release candidate. Release candidate. Eventually, we will release something. This is the first candidate of it. And there is already an RC2 in the works because there have been some issues and identifications. That's why we do it. That's why we jump in and intentionally break things. Because if this happened on the mainnet, it would be a big problem, right? So anyway, long story short, you've got this 1.8 consensus protocol upgrade that is going to cause all the old nodes, once it's activated and starts using the new structure, all the old nodes won't work in sync anymore. So that's why we're testing it. That's why we're going through such an effort, and everybody's got to get their nodes prepped and shift over and everything like that. Right? Correct. So once you make that switch, ultimately all the old nodes don't work. So what ended up happening is there are several of us that are working on spinning up our nodes, and we have many of them out there, but they aren't the main nodes that are running. Obviously, your public nodes are the stable releases. 1.73 is what we've got on our public node. So anyway, long story short, this morning, they started coming in the Jungle channel and started, I think it was Ross over at EOSphere actually, that came in there and said, so one of my nodes is completely separate from my other node. So the public node is 1.73, just like us, is running along, and it actually froze, but all of a sudden this backend node started doing its own thing. And so the two nodes sitting side by side each other weren't in sync anymore. And so Ross is like, what's going on? And so we all started checking our stuff. And yes, sure enough, something had happened that had caused the BPs to fraction, to fork from each other. Is that all the old nodes were running their version of the chain that was compatible with them, and they forked away and broke. And then all of us that were 1.8 said, I'm cool with that change. And so they kept moving forward and kind of got into a stalemate or whatever. So that's why you would see two different last guaranteed signed block, all that stuff was very different between the two and kind of working their way on. And so slowly we started piecing together, well, all of these people are working and all of these people aren't. And it's all in the Telegram channel, whatever. So we start figuring out, and it's all that 1.8 nodes or whatever. And it's kind of a funny conversation. It was like, it's almost like somebody turned on the fork activation, but you would have to do that, I'd really like to know what happened. This is, the developers and whatnot coming in there saying, whoa, Aaron Haggerty or whatever, I think that's his name, Aaron, came in there and was like, kind of need to know what's going on, did somebody turn it on? I don't remember who it was over at Attic Labs, was like, I did. And then it was like, wasn't me. And it was like, who even has access to do that type of thing? And he was like, yeah, I was playing around with it and seeing what would happen if I turned it on, and I turned it on. So he ultimately activated the fork, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. So it fractionalized everybody. Well, then you get into all of us started moving in this direction and this direction. All right, well, which one's the right one?
Right.
So ultimately, I think the final decision is that all of us with 1.8 are stepping in to get the node back in sync and get it all back online. Hopefully not have to roll the backups or whatever. But so what ended up happening is you need 21 BPs to be able to produce all the blocks and do the rotations and everything.
Wow.
So there weren't enough nodes that had 1.8 RC1 publicly live and ready to produce blocks. Because again, your front nodes our node, it may have been the BP node. I think I had already maybe upgraded on Jungle. It was the BP node that I had upgraded, but most of your BPs, the signing servers back behind the scenes, locked away from everybody, and you tend to not upgrade it first. So not everybody was ready for it because it wasn't ready to be turned on yet. So anyway, long story short, because we had a 1.8 node, they were able to go in behind the scenes, because it's JungleNet, and throw almost 30 million votes to I Vote for EOS USA's JungleNet account on JungleNet.
30 million votes.
Correct, which ultimately bumped us to 15, 16 in
How cool.
JungleNet, and we stepped in and started signing blocks. I got a screenshot
so cool.
of blocks signed by I Vote for EOS USA that were going scrolling by. It's on JungleNet.
That is so cool.
What it allowed us to do is the more of us that come online with 1.8, it'll bring us all in consensus, and that'll be the new chain. And I think that's probably the end result is JungleNet has a consensus activated now. That's why that's what JungleNet's for. Let's try it out, let's play with it, let's do the wrong thing.
JungleNet literally forked.
What happens if I press this button?
Right. Because when I walked in this morning, it was like, what is going on? There's something crazy going on,
Well, whenever you see us all here, it's kind of like, in the IT world, is that there shouldn't be this many nerds and geek speak going on at one time. Something's obviously up. So anyway, like I say, it wasn't catastrophic. Some of the, poor Cece was like, yeah, so what does that mean for me? It broke his node, and all right, I guess I got to fix it, so not detrimental. It's the test net. That's kind of what you live with, right? But yeah, it basically, you don't have the updated code, you can't play the game anymore. So
the nodes that people are running that aren't upgraded to 1.8 yet are going to have to be completely rebuilt, basically?
Replayed, caught up, in sync type of thing like that. I believe. That was at least the last time I saw.
When this happens on EOS mainnet, right? What is there a potential that some of the block producers will fall out because they're not running the current code, and when it forks and they don't upgrade to it? I guess I'm trying to.
The answer is the button won't get pressed until obviously all the BPs are in line and updated and ready to go. It should have been pressed in JungleNet. It just got pressed, and therefore it triggered it a little early.
So
this is what not to do in mainnet.
Right. Technically, JungleNet needed a 15 out of 21 majority vote to press the button. Supposedly. That's how it should have worked, right?
Well, in JungleNet, the rules are different for those reasons. You can just print Jungle tokens or EOS tokens on the fly. You know what I mean? They wrote intentionally backdoors that make it a little more free. So I don't think that it can actually be accidentally triggered in mainnet per se. But
I was gonna say,
this is why you wouldn't do that and why you have multi-sigs, 15 out of 21 and stuff like that, is that no, you can't just go in there. If you have enough keys to the kingdom and turn things on, you need everybody else. But JungleNet, it's different because
it's testing.
You go in there and do things like this.
Lab is
because you can go in there.
Part of the JungleNet environment, are they not?
Well, yeah, they're big on the core back end of a lot of the different chains and stuff like that. There's a built-in turn-on time that's, I guess, now or in the past or whatever. And so if you hit the button and don't delay it, it's immediate. So all of us that said, I know what that button means, said, here we go. What happens if I press this button?